For a long time, I've been very confident in the theory known as Molten MCI, a theory that states that the spirits of the missing children are present in the Funtime animatronics, and I am still pretty much 100% confident that that is correct. But more recently, I've been calling into question just how it happens. In this video, I'll be discussing an idea I've had about Molten MCI. I'm not all that confident that today's theory is correct, but I feel like it's an interesting idea worth bringing up. I'll be honest, I don't really often watch theory videos unless I'm reacting to them, so I don't really know if other people have come up with this idea, and I don't know if it's like really popular or completely like not even thought of, but either way, this video will just be about the evidence that I've come up with for how Molten MCI works, and I'm not sure if you guys will believe it. Hell, I don't really believe it. I just think it's a possibility, and by the end of this video, I think you guys might too, so without further ado, let's get started. I think what's important to do in this video before getting into the more speculative stuff is go over exactly why I'm so confident in Molten MCI being true. Luckily for me, I have a page-and-a-half long script about all the evidence that I use in past videos and I can reuse here and just slightly edit, because there isn't really a point in making a brand new script. Some of you may see that as lazy, and to that I say, absolutely it is. FNaF 6 was our first introduction to Remnant, but in that game we didn't really get much of an idea of what Remnant actually was. Remnant is shown in FNaF 6 to be something that the scooper injects into things. Remnant exists in Molten Freddy, and it's claimed that whatever the source of the Remnant in Molten Freddy is actually inside the scooper. So what is this Remnant? The fourth closet shows us that the missing children are in the Funtimes. Molten Freddy is Ennard, which is a conglomeration of the Funtimes, meaning if the same logic applies to the games, Molten Freddy should contain the spirits of the missing kids. The Remnant in Molten Freddy is made from the missing children, but how do we know all this is actually how it works in the games outside of just using the fourth closet as a source? Henry's goal in FNaF 6 is to set all the spirits free. He tells Charlotte in his final speech that it's time for her to rest along with the ones that she's carried in her arms. Charlotte is free in Happiest Day alongside the missing children as we see in FNaF 3, and that means that the puppet and all the missing kids are freed at the same time. Some people argue that Happiest Day happens in FNaF 3 and therefore the spirits can't be in the Funtimes. However, when Scott was asked which ending of FNaF 3 was canon, he said that the answer was interesting and complex, but he didn't answer the question. Basically what that seems to mean is that both endings are canon. The bad ending is canon in FNaF 3 because the spirits weren't set free then, but Happiest Day does happen at some point, meaning the good ending is also canon. So that all means that Charlotte still not being freed by FNaF 6 means the missing children weren't freed by FNaF 6 either. Henry in the ending monologue tells Charlotte,
"It's time to rest, for you, and for those you have carried in your arms. This ends for all of us."
This confirms that the missing children are actually here, in the FNaF 6 location. With the fourth closet being one of the major releases in the series after FNaF 6, it's clear that the fact that it shows the original animatronics endoskeletons being melted together and infused into the Funtimes means that's what happens in the games. It's important to clarify that it's not each child in an animatronic, like how it is with the original animatronics. The endoskeletons are all melted together, meaning that all the spirits are in all the Funtimes. Candy Cadet's 3 stories all connect to how this all works as well, each story showing a different aspect of Molten MCI. The one about the cats shows that it's the animal characters that are being put together. There's one where a woman has to pick which door of 5 to open. However, while she has all 5 keys, she can only use one, so she melts them all together into one key. But obviously this doesn't mean it's just a master key she can open all the doors with. This story represents the fact that the endoskeletons are melted together into one thing. And the final story, the one about the 5 orphans being killed, tells us that it is the original 5 missing children being put together. There's also the Insanity ending where Henry blatantly describes the events of the Follow Me minigames from FNaF 3 and confirms that Molten MCI happens as the aftermath of Follow Me.
Small souls trapped in prisons of my making, now set to new purpose, and used in ways I never thought imaginable.
This is talking about how the original animatronics were made by Henry and William perverted his technology and used it to create the Funtimes, which he makes to kill, and Henry talking about the missing kids shows that they are the souls he's saying are in the Funtimes.
He lured them all back to a familiar place, back with familiar tricks. He brought them all together.
This is him clearly talking about Follow Me. Luring them back to a familiar place is talking about the safe room, which is where the kids were lured to in the missing children incident as we know from FNaF 3. The familiar tricks he's talking about are the facts that he lures them like he did in the missing children incident, and he is using Shadow Freddy to do so, and Shadow Freddy is a being representing all of William's malicious intent. Saying he brought them all together is referring to William melting the endoskeletons together and tying the spirits together, which is exactly how Molten MCI works.
Are they still aware? I hope not. It keeps me awake at night. I could make myself sleep, but not yet. Not until I undo what he has done and heal this wound. A wound first inflicted on me, but then one that I let bleed out to cause all of this.
The question of whether or not the kids are still aware is referring to the fourth closet, where the spirits, while still aware, lose some aspects of their memories because the fragments of their spirits are separated from each other, distributed among multiple bodies. Him saying that he has to heal this wound means the missing children have to be here, otherwise he's not healing the wound at all.
He set some kind of trap. I don't know what it was, but he led them there, again. He overpowered them, again. And he robbed them of the only thing that they had, again.
This is also blatantly describing Follow Me, and the fact that he says that William robbed the spirits of the only thing that they had confirms that after Follow Me they aren't freed. So where are they? Everything else tells us that they are in the fun times.
I don't know how those tiny breaths of life came to inhabit those machines, but they will never find rest now, not like this. I have to call them all back, all of them, together in one place.
This entire insanity-ending monologue is talking about the missing children, meaning that when he says he has to call them all back to one place, that would include the missing kids too. He's saying that those kids won't find rest unless he enacts his plan, meaning that, as I've been saying, they are here. And there's nowhere else they can be. Some argue that they're in the Rockstar animatronics, but that can't be true because the Rockstars are an optional buy. You can beat the game without buying the Rockstars, so they aren't part of Henry's plan. He claims the missing kids to be here whether you buy the Rockstars or not. I also don't think the fast fact claiming the original Bonnie was used in the production of Rockstar Bonnie means anything. Using them in the production likely just means they used the original Bonnie as a reference. Even if Fazbear Entertainment did use parts from the original Bonnie, we see the remains of Bonnie in FNaF 3, and it doesn't exactly look like he's still possessed. And of course, that's because the spirits of the original kids are in the fun times. If the missing kids in the fourth closet are melted together and are the remnant put into the fun times, and the missing kids are apparently in FNaF 6, and Molten Freddy's in FNaF 6, and he is the fun times, then it's clear that the missing kids in the games are in the fun times too, and I think by now, that's pretty much undeniable. I think the Candy Cadet stories are very interesting in the way that each of them connects to Molten MCI. Even the Ultimate Guide points out the connection between the Candy Cadet stories and the fourth closet. I don't really take the Ultimate Guide into account when creating theories, but I think if a theory already has massive amounts of evidence, that if the Ultimate Guide also hints at it, then it is worth noting at the very least. The Candy Cadet stories definitely do connect to Molten MCI, but they also do seem to imply a possible difference between how it works in the games and how it works in the books. In the books, Afton destroys all the animatronics and melts the endoskeletons together, injecting himself and the Funtime animatronics with them. However, it seems to work slightly differently in the games. The scooper in FNaF 6 is labeled as being a remnant injector, and the remnant reservoir, essentially meaning the whole source of the remnant, the melted clump of endoskeletons, is all inside the scooper. Afton doesn't seem to have used a syringe to inject the remnant into the Funtimes in the games like he did in the fourth closet. Instead, it seems like he used the scooper to do so. One of the biggest issues people have with Molten MCI, and more specifically with Molten MCI being a result of the FNaF 3 Follow Me minigames, is that in all of the minigames, it is raining, indicating it all happens in one night. This would cause a problem if Molten MCI were to happen because of this, as right after Afton destroys the animatronics, he gets spring-locked. I never thought this was that great of evidence, as it's entirely possible that he destroys the animatronics in one night and then leaves, does all the fancy melting and injecting and stuff, and then returns to seal the safe room like the next day or something. I think that makes perfect sense. But another way around it could be that he simply doesn't leave. William does not leave after destroying the animatronics. But in that case, how does the remnant get into the fun times? Well, to answer that question, we have to go back to the Candy Cadet stories. The story with the cats has the owner of the cats want to help them, but he fails to and they die from the snake, then he puts them all together in one. The one with the keys has the woman trying to save the children but failing to and they all die. The one with the orphans has the man try to help them but someone kills them all and he puts them all together. In all three stories, it's not the evil one who puts the 5 things into one thing, it's the one who tries to save them. What if instead of William putting the endoskeletons together, it's actually Michael who did it? Michael's goals in the series seem to revolve around helping the kids and not knowing until Sister Location that his father is actually evil. It's possible that his father, before getting spring-locked, kept the endoskeletons in one place, and he told Michael where they would be in case he disappeared, and then he got spring-locked, Henry witnessed that, and then sealed the safe room, locking William away, only learning about the remnant and the fun times later on. Michael then goes to Freddy's and finds the endoskeletons. Remember Michael's speech in Sister Location? He found it. The endoskeletons. They were right where William said they would be. They were all there, and they didn't recognize Michael at first, but then they thought he was William. He brings them down to Circus Baby's Entertainment and Rental, melts them together, and puts them into the scooper. Somehow, he also finds Baby, and he puts her back together. I always found that line confusing, because in Sister Location, Michael doesn't do anything to put Baby back together. Baby being put back together seems to be referring to her becoming entered, and that only happened because the spirits ended up possessing the fun times, so Michael being the cause of that could explain how he put Baby back together. Like I said, if the fun times got possessed by the remnant of the missing kids through the scooper, it would make perfect sense for Mike to put the remnant into the scooper, and it would make sense if he got all the fun times scooped. This theory is very speculative, but I think it may work. What I wonder if this theory is true though, is Michael actually going to work at the rental facility after scooping the fun times? I would think that if he did that, he probably would have found his way around a bit better, and maybe he wouldn't even get tricked by Baby. I think the theory works for the most part, it's just a bit weird from a storytelling point of view. But what do you guys think? Do you think it's possible that Mike is the one who actually put the remnant into the fun times? Like I said, I don't think it was malicious at all. I think Mike just misinterpreted what his father was doing, and maybe it's possible he put the remnant in the fun times because of that. As I said before, I don't think this theory is definitive, and I think there's some issues with it. I honestly don't really believe it, but I just think that it's definitely a possibility. Maybe it's not the most likely possibility, maybe it is, but it's a possibility nonetheless. So let me know if you guys think it's possible, and let me know in the comments what you think of the theory. My next theory video will likely be all about B72, so if you want to see my thoughts on that, stay tuned. But that's all, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye guys!